This is Gukesh. He made history as the youngest World Chess Championship challenger of all time at just 17 years old. He's one of India's rising stars, but he's not the only one. In fact, India has been dominating chess recently. This is a graph detailing the countries who have players rated 2600 plus FIDE, aka the top 100 or so in the world. As you can see, some of the countries have a disproportionate amount of top players. India is one of them. Why is India so good at chess? I spent 4 months of my life gathering statistics, compiling data about this instead of doing normal things like going out, going to parties, having a love life. I even wrote a thesis about it, so I'm gonna share what I have learned. But first, let's go back to where it all started. This is Viswanathan Anand. You might recognize him as one of the top chess players of all time, but before he was world champion, he made history for a different reason. In December of 1988, Anand became the first Indian grandmaster. Ever. There had never been one before him. This is crazy for multiple reasons. First, there's the fact that the first grandmaster from a country became a world champion. That's extraordinarily rare. Also, it shows how far Indian chess has come in just 40 years alone. Having an inspiration, someone to look up to, was definitely important for Indian youth, but it's not the only reason India has been so successful in chess. It's just a fact that India creates more top grandmasters than most other countries, so why is this? The first reason we're going to look at is government support, and this is extremely important because being a top chess player in most places isn't seen as a way to riches. Many grandmasters outside of the top 20 or so have to make a living by going to different tournaments, tutoring students. Some even have jobs outside of chess. That's very common. And all of this creates one kind of issue, which is they cannot spend as much time studying chess. There's pretty much no way for someone to compete if they're spending their time working another job or trying to find other sources of income compared to someone who's spending all their time focused on chess. Let's get into the statistics. So there are an estimated 350,000 internationally rated chess players. By that, I mean FIDE rated chess players, and less than 2,000 grandmasters in the world. So if you're a grandmaster, that means you're in the top 0.5%. That's kind of insane. In most other professions, being that good means you would probably make serious money. I mean, think about being 0.5% as a lawyer or as a doctor in computer science. If all that effort isn't always rewarded, you're less likely to have young people choose to pursue chess. This is definitely where India has an advantage on some other countries. In 2023, the All Indian Chess Federation gave their top Indian chess players the equivalent of $36,000, so they could cover training and travel costs for the World Championship. So in India, the government definitely supports its chess players. For first place in the Olympiad, which for you guys who don't know is the chess version of the Olympics, each member of the Indian team received the equivalent of $83,700. Not having to worry about supporting themselves financially means top Indian players can focus on their chess studies. It also means that parents are more likely to put their kids in chess, knowing that their kids will be able to make a decent living. This is a huge influence considering the majority of top players, which is what we're looking at right now, get into chess very early. In fact, you might have heard of this 3-year-old who's already 1,500 FIDE. That is crazy, and he's also Indian. I sent a bunch of players from different countries a survey detailing how much federation and government support that they received, and there were some interesting results to this. So first, I want to point out this was a survey, so it's not always entirely accurate because it's self-reporting. There also might be a little bias there, but also, there aren't a lot of grandmasters in the world. They're very busy people. So I wouldn't say the amount of grandmasters we got was statistically significant, but it is a number that could give a little bit more insight into government and federation support in India versus some other countries. Now, India was a 6.5 in federation support. That was the average, putting them at the second best country for government support, according to, again, this survey, and there's a lot of other factors on it. But I thought this data was very interesting. Most of the players that I surveyed from India were very satisfied with the amount of government support. It also had some aspects of it designed to be less biased. For example, I just asked them to talk about straight numbers they got, the type of support, where they were receiving their support. This also was quite high. Most of their training costs were covered. So let's get into the second reason why India is so good at chess. We'll paint a picture. First, I don't know if you've heard this, but there was a chess player who was recently gifted a car for being a runner-up in a major chess tournament. A car. I mean, when there is a lot of prestige in a place, companies tend to follow, and with companies come sponsorships, opportunities, gifts, and there is a lot of prestige for chess in India. Just take a look at this clip. This clip isn't of a group of fans greeting a famous actor, but of the greeting Pragnananda got after his stellar World Cup performance. With chess players treated as celebrities, it not only encourages young talent, but increases the likelihood people will put their children in chess. While chess is popular in many other countries, having this type of fan base in countries like the US is practically unheard of. There are some other possible reasons you can point to for Indian success in chess, such as culture and work ethic, but these are a bit harder to prove using statistics alone, which is what I've been focusing on. However, there are some reasons that we can immediately rule out for why India is so good at chess. So for all my fellow nerds out there, this is how I gathered data. I took data from FIDE, I took data from World Data Banks, and I compiled it all in R where I ran correlation tests. So this is how I'm getting this section. And there are a few things that I would have thought would have been correlated to these top grandmasters. So basically reasons why India is so good at chess that actually ended up being not correlated at all. The first is population. India has a huge population, and some people might say, well, there's so many players, chances are one's going to be talented enough to become a top player. With more people, you're going to end up having more top grandmasters. This was not the case. In fact, there was a pretty low correlation between population and top chess players. By top chess players, I looked at just 2,600 plus, because that's around the top 100. While there was correlation between FIDE-rated players, so the amount of pure FIDE-rated players with grandmasters, there was not a correlation between the number of FIDE-rated players with top grandmasters. So population, the amount of people who play chess, did not have a huge enough impact or a big enough correlation to the amount of top grandmasters to explain this phenomenon. Similarly, I looked at some other aspects that I thought might be related, such as access to electricity and national average income. You would think access to electricity on a widespread basis would allow for more top chess players. You'd think average income would allow parents to support their kids in chess. But again, this had little correlation. Now, I think this may be because it's not a pure numbers game. Having a higher national income and access to electricity may mean more people can play the game. But as seen, having more people play doesn't necessarily create more top grandmasters. Therefore, there wasn't a super high correlation here. Now, this part is a bit anecdotal, but I spent a week training with R.B. Ramesh, who is the coach of Pragnananda, one of the top chess players in India. And this is a little bit what I learned about Indian chess during this time. One, it was one of the most difficult training sessions of my life. We did a lot of pure calculation, and pure calculation is definitely a strength of a lot of youth Indian players in general. You can just see their games are absolutely insane, very aggressive because they calculate these lines. But again, this is a bit of a generalization, but there were a lot of stories I heard. For example, with a coaching session, you would have a bunch of people traveling from a huge amount of distance, piling into a room to listen to chess coaches speak. And that kind of might be a chicken and egg effect. If chess is very popular in India, there's going to be a lot more players who really want to learn. But at the same time, it might just be more of a representation about how seriously young players in India take chess. And, this could be a pretty direct correlation to why they have more top grandmasters and all these top grandmasters are fairly young as well. So a lot of really motivated young players. But I definitely think the way these players train, the motivation, the effort, the pure focus on calculation, which is something I've heard a lot about, although, again, this is not statistics, so I can't confirm, this is just a little bit of speculation, might have an impact on the way these players are rising to the top ranks so quickly. Indian chess is growing. Maybe this year we'll even have an Indian world chess champion. Who knows, but it's clear that the future of chess in India is bright.